What's good, y'all? Blacksmith here, and today we're here to talk about The Conjuring: Last Rites. Serving as the ninth movie in the Conjuring series, Last Rites follows another investigation by Ed and Lorraine Warren. But it's a little bit different this time around because it follows their last investigation together, closing a chapter of Ed and Lorraine Warren in the Conjuring series. So the big question is, was their last investigation together as good and as wild as we think it would be? Let's talk about it. Last Rites follows Ed and Lorraine Warren as they investigate a paranormal activity event in the mid-80s. They've been called upon by a family being haunted by a malevolent spiritual force to protect them and cast that force out of their home. And without giving too much away, I will say this is unlike any other spiritual force they've encountered before. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the plot, so let's get into these pros and cons. And for this review, there's not going to be a column A and B when it comes to pros and cons because in my opinion, they pretty much tie together depending on what you're expecting from this movie. So I'm just going to talk about different points of the film and what I liked and didn't like about them, and you can come to your own conclusion. Starting out, let's talk about the story. On the surface, it just sounds like any other Conjuring movie involving the Warrens. You know, they get called for a case about paranormal activity and then they go exorcise the force out of the family's home. But what I liked about this story is that there's a lot more to it than just the surface level information because it involves more characters. And it also made characters that we didn't really seem to care about in other movies in the Conjuring series matter more. So this movie's story was able to give more space and allow other characters to shine and become more important than they once were. However, I do believe that may have made this movie a little bit too cluttered when it came to the storytelling elements. I say that because even though this story does give shine to a lot of other characters and makes them a little bit more important this time around, I do believe that a lot of the development for these characters could have been spread out throughout the other Conjuring movies involving Ed and Lorraine. I believe the story focused way too much on character development rather than the actual case itself. There was way too much filler in the story and it pretty much took away from what we really came to see, which was the investigation of the paranormal activity. It was just way too much at one time, and really they could have spread all of that out throughout the rest of the movies, and so we could just get to what we really wanted to see and not have to rush it towards the end. Next, let's talk about the horror. Now, I can say that the horror elements were pretty good, but in my opinion, they were a little bit watered down for this movie, and I believe it's because of all of the character development that went into it and left a lot of the horror elements on the cutting room floor. And there were a few jump scares in this movie, but I wasn't necessarily jumping or scared at them. When it comes to this movie being scary, I will say it's probably very watered down from the other movies we've seen in the Conjuring series, and it really wasn't that big of a deal this time around for it to be scary. And for what was scary, they relied way too much on CGI. And speaking of relying too much on things, the last point I want to talk about, the entire execution. The way everything was executed from the story to the scares just seemed like they didn't necessarily know where to go with this movie. For instance, there was no reason for certain callbacks to other demonic entities to be seen in this movie. And I don't think I really need to say who I'm talking about here. I think we all know who the big draw character is for the Conjuring series. And that character had absolutely no reason to be in this movie when it had nothing to do with that character. You can tell that they just kind of threw all the other elements in from other movies into this movie for nostalgic purposes. And it didn't really look that great to see. There were a lot of elements that didn't really need to be seen in this movie, and a lot of unnecessary scare tactics that didn't need to be executed, and just made the movie seem a bit underwhelming and overcluttered. Overall, I wasn't really a huge fan of this movie. Is it worth seeing? Sure. For a horror movie, sure, you could get entertained by it, but if you're expecting it to be one big grand finale that's gonna scare your pants off, then I would suggest looking elsewhere. And even though this is being marketed as the last Conjuring movie, it's really just the last movie of Ed and Lorraine Warren's characters. So will we have more movies in the Conjuring series? I guess we'll just have to see. Thanks for checking out my review. Let me know if you plan on seeing this movie. Let me know if you've already seen it and what you thought about it. Let me know what you thought about my review, and give this video a like and your boy a follow. I truly appreciate it. And until next time, peace.